All right, let's talk about the Pentagon, shall we?
Okay. Reports are now that the Pentagon is on par to receive the most amount of your money, taxpayer money than ever before. Now, if you recall, the argument of leaving Afghanistan was it was too expensive and there was no clear path to victory. So it was time to just go. There was no real end game any longer. So we just pulled right out. You would think that that would mean that we are going to save all of that money, not supporting the troops there, not sending war there, not sending food, not sending materials, not sending more people, right? That is not the case. Congress is now on the verge of raising military spending to $740 billion.
That's it?
Which begs the question, what's that for?
Right. Yeah, and this comes after.
What is that for?
Well, exactly. What for? $740 billion.
What can you get for that?
A new one? A new war?
A new war.
Mm-hmm.
We know that the reports are that, hey, these guys went to, now that we've now negotiated with other countries in this region to make sure that while we're not in Afghanistan, we've basically repositioned all of our assets in this region to continue doing what we do. And into, basically anything we want in this region. So airstrikes, drone attacks, anything. We're just not doing it from Afghanistan, from Bagram Air Base anymore. Now we're just doing it outside of, because now we've negotiated with other countries to be able to do this in their countries, in their backyard.
But what do we use that money for? You might recall that in early this year, in April, the president proposed a $715 billion budget, which already was 6% more than we used last year. And then the Armed Services Committee added $25 billion to that proposal. And why then, in a time when we're squabbling over social stimulus packages, does this not come to the Congress floor?
Of course
it's
not.
Approved, no bipartisan, nothing, just no discussion. Sign on the dotted line, there's a check.
There's only been a few, like Barbara Lee of California and other progressives like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who called for a 10% reduction in the military budget. And she was basically, that never saw the light of day. That was, ridiculous. Barbara Lee of California went to vote on the invasion in 2001 and called on Republicans she was one of the few people to say, no, let's not. She was one of the few, I think the only. Mm-hmm. She was the only person in Congress to vote against the invasion. And she said, we've got to stop spending our money on these endless wars, and we've got to start pulling our money towards addressing human needs in the United States. This is expected to cost $7 trillion over the next 10 years.
That is 4 times more than the Build Back Better package that we're squabbling over.
They whittled that down to less than 2.
And they're getting even more money. I mean, this is amazing. As the Intercept points out, they're raising the military spending, continuing to grow, and get as much money as they want. And these things get added in, as the Intercept points out, they just get called plus-ups. You know, so they're like, the Pentagon had a budget of $715 billion, but then we just decided to do what's called a plus-up.
It's like adding an appetizer.
Right. Oh, I just had a plus-up of $40 billion we added to your budget. Just a little plus-up. I just had a little plus-up done.
So what do they want us to think we need this money for? Well, now we're starting to think that we might need to go to war with China.
Exactly.
Right? And so we had a story this morning in the newsletter where the Navy says, hey, we noticed that China has built duplicates of our Navy warship and they're doing target practice on it. And they released images of it, right? So, okay, do we know those are the exact specs, or is that just an outline? It does look like a wine bottle.
Like China builds mock-ups of U.S. Navy ship. That's a giant wine bottle.
So, okay, they want to simulate attacks on the U.S.
I mean, we are the only ones that can attack.
I don't know.
We are the only ones that can attack outside of our country. So they need to, not be doing this kind of stuff, because nobody can attack us. We attack.
Yeah. We're really worried about them attacking us. I mean, we're in 9 different wars. I mean, I'm learning about a new war like every day. Like, we just learned last week that we're in Ethiopia. Like we learned, we're secretly in Nicaragua. Like, where else are we now, like in secret wars that we just don't even know about, we'll find out about. that the American people will learn this is where our troops are there training. We found out we were in Taiwan. Like a few weeks ago, we found out we were in Taiwan.
David, why do you say that nobody can attack us?
No, I'm just saying that's the hypocrisy of it. We can attack whoever we want, but it's hypocritical, that we are thinking that they shouldn't
you think
create
that's
a way to defend themselves from us doing that. It's
right.
like we're such hypocrites. Like nobody can overthrow an election except for us. So don't run Facebook ads in America, Russia, and try to overthrow our elections. That's our job. Don't create a defense system against the United States. That's our job, to have defense systems against the whole world.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have the Star Wars system. You can't do that.
Yeah.
But the propaganda machine has been warming us to a war in China for a long time now because they need to divert those funds.
And we need a new boogeyman, right? So if we're not focused on Russia, right? If we're not focused in Afghanistan against the Taliban, who can we make sure that the American people are scared of? It's China. And we keep beating the drum about concerns about Taiwan and, the back and forth about we're going to defend Taiwan against it. And that's going to be our next war. I mean, it's all the signs are pointing to this. And why? I
mean, and the thing is, all these people should be afraid. We are the only country to ever use nuclear weapons. We have used them twice. And we're the ones that are walking around saying, you shouldn't have them. You shouldn't have them. We're going to make sure you don't have them. We're the ones that have used them. We're the ones that should not have them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we used them on our own troops to test them out, to see how effective they were, we can't talk about that, but we can do definitely testing out in Nevada deserts. And hey, you guys just stand over here for a second. We're going to explode this thing. We just want to see how it affects your, if you get testicular cancer. Okay, go ahead, guys. You guys stand over there.
Oh, there was a episode of This American Life about a man who was a young boy who was specifically one of those people. Oh. And it was awful just to hear him. He's like, we didn't know any better. We just stood there. And it looked like an amazingly large light and heat. And now most of my friends had awful cancers. And, it was, awful.
It's like, awful. It was like they replaced it Chernobyl. And it's like, what kind of information were they given to do that? You know what I mean? Like they were probably like, it's not going to hurt you. We just want to test.
Yeah. It was exactly like that. Yeah, I do recommend that episode. It was in an episode about things that children are scared of, but something about childhood scares, real atrocities that children have seen.
And it's amazing too to think about in schools, just hide under a table, because that'll protect you from a nuclear bomb.
Yes.
And it's of our own doing. I mean, we bring in Nazi war criminals to the United States to help to help us. To help us build these bombs and rockets. I mean, it's unbelievable. Anyway, but this is the new boogeyman, and the Pentagon is ramping up. And this is why you're going to have to spend more money. This is why they're going to have to spend, $740 billion a year on this budget to make sure that, we've got we're creating a new phony war with China.
I just don't understand this because we're so dependent on foreign imports from China. Why would we willingly pick a new fight there?
Well, and think about all of the assets that China owns in this country. Like I've heard people say that if China were to flood our markets with all of the bonds and stuff that they hold, they could crash our economy.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we had to try to stop. In Vancouver was dealing with this, right? The Chinese were buying up building after building and home after home, and the Canadian government were like, okay, hold on. This is bad for Canadians because Canadians can't buy these buildings anymore.
Just last year in Portugal, there was a scandal because the American ambassador at the time, it was a Trump appointee, gave an interview that said that Portugal really has to decide how to get China and Chinese investment out of Portugal and out of Europe. And the Portuguese government said, you don't speak for us. We will decide what we do about Chinese investors. And they have friendly immigration programs for Chinese investors, right? And they were like, we do not want you telling us what to do. You will kindly stay out of it, right? But this was a scandal because America is trying to go around the world and say, we're all against China, right? We hate China. We don't want Chinese investment, right? That's how we feel? No China. Right. And it is part of a larger narrative, like whether or not you should be worried about Chinese investment should be decided by yourself, right? It's not for America to say how much to be worried about Chinese investment.
Well, I would love everybody. Money. It is. I would love everybody right now everybody, you included, Clayton and Natalie, look around where you're sitting and think of how many things are made in China that are sitting around you right now.
Look at the
Everything
label
we're
of your
using for this
clothes.
live stream is
Right.
from China. Sony cameras, like all this stuff, there's parts and stuff that are manufactured in China. We would
Right.
be the ones screwed in that scenario.
Yeah, like the camera that I'm, on Grover right now, parts come out of China on iPhone.
Your
Like,
little
all of it.
iPhones that you have, those are manufactured over there.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it's all about money. It's all about this. It's all about this financial hegemony. It's not about like military might. It's about money and making sure that the U.S. dollar is the reserve currency of the world, and the Chinese yuan is not. But many experts believe that China will overtake the United States by 2030, maybe even at the latest.
I was looking at my
as the world
compact.
leader. Was that from China?
No, it's from France.
This mouse. Where's this mouse from? Find it.
Let's look at our Kirkland tissue.
Everyone at home, see if you can reach something and find if it's from China or not.
Well, and the thing is, like, we don't even know, like, raw materials maybe from China and not the,
Yeah.
it could be manufactured in the U.S. I see that a lot, but it's like the stuff that's sourced comes from China.
Made in the USA from domestic and imported materials. So
There you go.
Maybe it was put together from.
And even the chicken, some of the chicken you eat from Walmart has been sent to China. It's been processed and seasoned and sent back
Yeah,
to the grocery stores.
that's
That's
just
gross.
disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah.